There we go. It's a mighty tight squeeze, as Neil Young once said. The camera is looking slightly up, so it's hard to see the egg itself. If the camera were aiming completely horizontally, would get its own reflection in the screen. But the egg is being placed in a groove over the top of the food. She's extruding the egg right now, almost finished. She will immediately commence building the partition now that the egg is laid. Yeah, the secret of getting these shots is having a blank wall that's perfectly smooth and featureless reflected in the glass while the picture's being taken. Between the plexiglass and the wood is a yellow filter, yellow stage gel. Otherwise the bee would not tolerate these light levels. Okay, she's immediately commencing to scrape the walls for sawdust to build the partition now. In fact, she's trying to scrape it right from the plexiglass. Normally she'd be scraping a wood surface to do this. This is a rare chance to actually see the scraping behavior from the surface that's actually being scraped. This gyration of the abdomen that you see now is almost always occurs shortly after egg laying. She may, as she is now, leave the food for a few inches to collect material, but she'll always come back to the cell to put the partition next to the food. The partition looks like a rubber band that has been broken and rolled into a spiral and goes across the tunnel, much like an eardrum across the ear. It runs up against the tunnel very smoothly, though in these nests that are part plexiglass, it's quite sloppily placed against the glass, but very neatly placed against the wood, coming to an abrupt end. The inavailability of nest sites for these bees is becoming a serious problem because as buildings are being demolished that have nests, new ones are being built of materials the bees can't nest in. Some scientists, like Professor Veldhuis in Holland, believe that we may have a major famine at the turn of the century if something isn't done to conserve or domesticate carpenter bees. For some crops, such as cotton, 7 carpenter bees can do the work of a whole hive of honeybees, not because they execute as many visitations, but because they carry pollen more efficiently from flower to flower.
Now we have a scene from 1992.
This is a second series. The first series of brood is in the top tunnel. The larvae have already hatched. Now the second series is being produced. We are not sure whether this is done by the mother or by the helper, who is allowed to raise a few helpers of her own. Here in Ithaca, the second series is produced almost immediately after the first one. But in the deep south, there is often a pause, so you get an early spring brood and a late spring brood. This was first observed by Charmaine Bourdillon of Lafayette, Louisiana, then at Georgetown University on her PhD career. She's one of the greatest living experts on...
Which bee is which now until we analyze the film.
She is one of the greatest living experts on Xylocopa virginica.
Competition, you don't know which
In this sequence, you can see the larvae moving in their cells as they feed. The spot of red paint on the glass helps mark which cell is which. The larva would correspond to the caterpillar stage of a butterfly. The pupa stage, which is like the chrysalis, has no cocoon, although in other bees there are cocoons. Here's the red nest. As you can see, the visibility is much less. The clickety-clack sound you hear is a car moving over a manhole in the nearby highway. Quite a juxtaposition of the engineered world and the natural world, isn't it? The second cell in this new series turned into a giant pupa and a giant bee. Often, one very large female will be raised each year in a nest. But this is not necessarily the dominant one. Notice the rotator bee now on the left in this sequence. The mother is just beginning